Good morning, students. So today I shall continue with this chapter, a revision tour to MySQL, that is chapter number 5 in your book, and the topic for discussion today shall be listing and viewing table structures in MySQL. So here is this command to create the table identified by the name device permanently. These are the 4 columns of the table: DID, DName, DCost and DProfit. The data type for the column DID is varchar. This is because this column called DID is going to accept only characters. Examples of characters can be letters and symbols. Similarly, the data type for the column DName is also varchar because the name of a person should consist of characters such as alphabetical letters. Then the data type for the column DCost is decimal. This is because a cost of an item is always calculated as a decimal value. For example, if the cost of the device known as pen drive is 15 rupees, then it has to be represented as 15.00. And lastly, the data type for the column DProfit is integer. This is because a profit that is calculated for an item has to be a numeric value. That's why its data type is integer. And once you represent the column names and its associated data types for the table device, you have to end this command by closing the bracket with a semicolon like this. Now once you type and execute this command to create this table device, you will see the structure of the table exactly like this, okay, where DID is the first column, DName is the second column, DCost is the third column and DProfit is the fourth column. Initially, this table that has been created will show no records, okay. This table will be entirely blank. That's the reason this table only shows the column names. But once you try to insert a record into this table using this command, that is insert into the table name which is device, okay, and then values, putting the first value D_001 for the column DID, speaker for the column DName, 1200.00 for the column DCost and 50 for the column DProfit, you will then see this new record getting inserted into this table. And this particular record gets inserted into this table permanently. This is because this command known as create table creates this table named device so that it can store this record permanently. And this is the command to insert this record. Now note one thing, that the data type for the column DCost is decimal 8,2. So what does this 8 stands for? 8 here stands for the precision and 2 here stands for the scale. So keep in mind here, the first digit 8 stands for the precision and the second digit 2 stands for the scale. Now the precision 8 means that just before the decimal point there can be at the most 8 digits. So let's test the value associated with this column called DCost. So this is the value 1200.00. Now if you look at this value, just before the decimal point you have 1200. Now the number 1200 consists of how many digits? If you count, it consists of 4 digits. And the maximum value that you can have as per the precision is 8, okay. So 1200 being only a 4-digit number is acceptable. Now look at this second digit 2, okay. The second digit 2 stands for the scale. Now scale here denotes that the number of digits after the decimal point has to be maximum 2. So let's find it out here. Okay, this is the value 1200.00. Now after the decimal point I have 00. Okay, now 00 consists of how many digits? It consists of 2 digits. Okay, and as per the value in the scale we can have maximum of 2 digits. Okay, so this is also acceptable, and so that's the reason that this value 1200.00 becomes an acceptable value for this column D cost. Now note one thing, that for the values D_001 and speaker, okay, which belongs to the column DID and DName, okay, which belongs to the column DID and DName, I have enclosed it within quotation. This is because the data type associated with the columns DID and DName is varchar. So just keep in mind that with varchar as a data type for the columns, okay, their values has to be enclosed within quotations like this. Again, if you look at these two values, they are not enclosed within quotations. This is because the value 1200.00 belongs to the column D cost and the value 50 belongs to the column D profit. Okay, the reason these two values are not enclosed within quotation is that these two columns has a data type which is numeric in nature. Okay, here the decimal data type associated with the column D cost will represent a numeric value. Again, the integer data type associated with the column D profit will also represent any numeric value. So they are not enclosed within quotations. And remember, every MySQL statement has to end with a semicolon. Okay, that's why this insert into statement ends with a semicolon. In the same way, this create table statement also ends with a semicolon. Okay, so this is one SQL statement ending with a semicolon, and this is another SQL statement ending with a semicolon. Both these statements are connected together, which creates this table having these 4 columns and inserts the record with these values. Now there is a command to display all the available list of tables in your MySQL database. The name of that command is show tables. Okay, this command prints the list of tables available in your MySQL database. Now firstly, what is a database? A database acts like a container for holding tables. Inside a database, you can store unlimited number of tables. There was a command to create a database. Okay, the name of that command was create database, followed by the name of the database which you have to specify. Okay, and once you create the database using that create database command, you have to make that database as your active database or your current database. Okay, and the command to make that database as your active or current database was use and then specify the name of the database. Now in the class I had already shown you how to create a database identified by the name college, and the command to create this database shall be exactly like this: create database college followed by semicolon. And once you have created this database, you have to make this database as your active database or your current database. For that reason, you have to make use of this command, okay, that is use college followed by semicolon. And once this database has become your active database, you can add tables into this database. Now this is the first table that I have created, and the name of this table is device. So the only table that this particular database college shall contain is device. And what is the command to show that table? Here is the command: show tables followed by semicolon. Once you execute this command, you can see that the table that you have newly created, identified by the name device, gets displayed under your database named college. and if you create more tables, all those tables will be added into this database, and in that case, along with this table device, you will have all those tables being listed out here. As a result, your table list will grow and your database will contain many tables. Now there is a command to view the table structure. So you remember, this was the table that I have created. The name of the table is device. Okay, now if you want to view the structure of this table, you have to make use of the describe command, okay, followed by the name of the table. Okay, since the name of our table is device, so I shall write describe device followed by a semicolon, and this is going to show the structure of the table name device in this format. These are the 4 columns: DID, DNAME, DCost, DProfit, that were present here, and these are the data types associated with each of these columns. Okay, so each of these data types associated with their column names gets displayed out here exactly in this format. So this is the structure of our table named device. Now there is another command to view the table text. So what actually is the table text? Now this was the command that I have typed and executed to create our table name device permanently. We can call this command as the table text, and if you want to view that table text, you have to type the command like this: show create table followed by the name of the table. As I am going to show the table text for our table named device, so I am going to write show create table device and end it with a semicolon. On executing this command, you can see this table text getting displayed exactly as it is over here. Okay, so on executing this command, you get to see this table text. Now just as how you can create a permanent table, in the same way you can also create temporary tables in MySQL. Temporary tables do not get stored in the database permanently. Instead, it remains in the database for a particular period of time or for a stipulated period of time only. But a temporary table offers the same functionality as that of a permanent table. Okay, so whatever things can be done with the help of a permanent table, the same things can also be done with the help of a temporary table. The only difference is that a permanent table stays inside the database permanently, whereas a temporary table stays inside the database only for a short period of time. We basically use the temporary tables for storing temporary data. Now whenever we do some calculations such as addition, subtraction, division or multiplication, okay, whatever sort of calculations, we tend to store some data temporarily. Okay, so all those data can be stored in temporary tables. Now the command to create a temporary table is like this: create temporary table, and then I have to specify the name of the temporary table. Now let me specify the name of the temporary table as device_copy. Now initially when you will create this temporary table device_copy, it will be totally blank. There will be no records inside this table. Okay, now let's suppose I want to store this record contained in my permanent table device into my temporary table device_copy. Okay, so for that you have to write one SQL statement. The SQL statement should be select star from device. Now this statement is going to retrieve all the records from the permanent table device. As of now, our permanent table device consists of only this record. So this particular record shall be copied from our permanent table device into our temporary table device underscore copy. And that's the reason you get to see the same record which was in the permanent table in this temporary table known as device underscore copy. As a result, your temporary table will be looking exactly the same as your permanent table. So look at this temporary table device underscore copy and this permanent table device. They look exactly the same. The only difference is that this permanent table is going to store this record permanently in the database, and this temporary table device underscore copy is going to store this record temporarily in the table or the database. So that's the end of my first presentation today.